simple way to understand the sequence of tenses is the finite verb. If the finite verb in the main clause is in the past tense, the verbs in the subordinate clauses will be in the past tense only. Past tense follows past tense, simply put. But if the finite verbs in the main clauses is either in present or in future, then depending on the context, the tense of the finite verbs in the subordinate clauses can be in any tense as long as it makes sense. Now there are many exceptions to this. The very first exception. Now let's first take up the rule that past tense follows past tense. There are two exceptions to this, to this rule. Two exceptions to this rule. Very important. This is the first rule, and there are two exceptions. First exception is this: if the subordinate clause states a scientific truth or a universal fact, if the subordinate clause states a universal truth or a scientific fact, then this rule does not apply. Then past tense will follow present tense only, simple present tense only. In this case, past tense follows present indefinite only. For example, our teacher told us that water is the densest at 4 degrees Celsius. Now the main clause here is our teacher told us. Beginning here, that water is the densest at 4 degrees Celsius is the subordinate clause. Is the subordinate clause. Now, because the underlined portion is a subordinate clause and it states a scientific fact, past tense told in the main clause has followed a present indefinite in the subordinate clause. Second exception to this rule is if the second exception to this rule is if the subordinate clause is introduced by than or as, then past tense can follow any tense as long as it makes sense. Past tense can follow any tense as long as it makes sense. For example, he obeyed me, or he obeyed me more than he obeyed / obeys you. Full stop. Past tense can follow any tense as long as it makes sense. So these are the two exceptions to the rule that past tense follows past tense. Second rule that we come across is an exception to the rule that present and future and future can follow any tense. This is important. This is very, very important. We are studying exceptions to this. Exceptions to this rule. Exceptions to the rule above. Alright. Now, we study, and the exceptions to this are extremely important. Present and future can follow any tense. Consider the sentence, the doctor will say that, the doctor says that the patient would get well soon. The doctor says that the patient would get well soon. I can say the doctor says that the patient will get well soon. I can say the doctor says that the patient would get well soon. I'm absolutely correct. I can say the doctor will say that the patient will get well soon. I can say the doctor will say that the patient would get well soon. So present and future can follow any tense as long as it makes sense. But there are 3 exceptions to this. 3 exceptions. Very important exceptions. Those 3 exceptions apply in the case where the subordinate clause either states purpose, condition, or time. If the subordinate clause states any one of these, purpose, condition, or time, then this rule, present and future can follow any tense, does not apply at all. And these are very common errors, very, very common errors. And this is equally interesting also. To give you an idea of what is meant is, for example, I cannot say I will stop the class when the bell will ring. Right? To say I will stop the class when the bell will ring is wrong. To say we work so that we can live is again wrong. To say if I will work hard, I will get through is again wrong. These are all incorrect statements. All incorrect statements. I'm repeating that present and future can follow any tense, does not apply when the subordinate clause states purpose, condition, or time. Very common error. Very, very common error. Again, I'm repeating. I cannot say if I will work hard, I will get good marks. Incorrect. I will leave the place when he will return. Incorrect. We work hard so that we will live, we can live. Incorrect. These are all incorrect statements, and that is what we are going to study now. But once again, before we come to something very, very important, is that the rule that present and future can follow any tense does not apply in 3 instances. The first instance is wherein the subordinate clause states purpose. The second, wherein the subordinate clause states condition. And the third, present and future can follow any tense, does not apply when the subordinate clause states time.